We're about a month left at the NBA season, and there are a lot of teams fighting and jockeying for position. We've seen a number of games that have already determined tiebreakers that could go on to play big parts in play-in tournaments. We're going to talk about those bubble teams. We're going to say which teams do I see going into the play-in, the playoffs, or the lottery. We'll get into all that and more right after this.
The number one place for your daily basketball fix, NBA Central. Hosted by the one and only CEO Haize.
What's going on, basketball fans? And we're nearing that time that is one of the most fun times as a basketball fan. It may not be fun if you're only a fan of a specific team, like my team's struggling, but if you are also a general basketball fan where you just love the game of basketball, we're about to go into a time where we're going to get some of the best basketball, period. And the parity around the NBA this season has offered a chance to have a competitive series in every single playoff series, but also in the play-in tournament. And so we're going to take a look at some of the teams that are fighting and still hoping to either make the play-in, the playoffs, or the teams that are going to end up in the lottery that are going to see themselves on the outside looking in, even though they are trying for a play-in spot. And so we're going to start off in the Eastern Conference. So if you look at the Eastern Conference teams, the teams in the play-in area right now, the Miami Heat, the Atlanta Hawks, the Toronto Raptors, the Washington Wizards, and then you have the Indiana Pacers and the Chicago Bulls with realistic chances to still make the play-in tournament. So which one of these teams are going to wind up in the play-in tournament? Which ones are going to wind up in the playoffs? And which ones are going to end up in the lottery? Now, again, the teams that don't make it in the playoffs are still going to make it in the lottery, but we're saying that's going to miss the play-in tournament. That's how we're judging it here. All right, so we're going to start off with the team right now that's at the 12th spot in the NBA, and that is the Chicago Bulls. And that is, for many people who know, that's my team. And where do I see that team right now? That team is 3-7 over the last 10 games. They've lost the last 2 in a row. And despite having a positive point differential for the longest stretch of the season, I do not see the Chicago Bulls making even the play-in tournament. And I know that's disappointing, especially as a Bulls fan, those who know me from Chicago Bulls Central. I just have to be realistic. I do not see the Chicago Bulls team making even the play-in tournament. And that's going to be unfortunate just because this team doesn't even own their own first-round pick outright. It's top 4 protected. Otherwise, it's going to the Orlando Magic. So if the Bulls do miss the play-in and also don't fall in that top 4 when they get into the lottery, it's going to be the season's a wash. And the season's pretty much a wash for them anyway. But looking at that team, I definitely have that team slated to go right into the lottery. And the team above them, the Indiana Pacers as well. I'm going to say this. If the Pacers can stay healthy, if Halliburton can stay healthy, I actually see the Indiana Pacers leapfrogging the Washington Wizards and being able to make that play-in spot. And so when you're looking at the teams that right now are slated in the play-in area, the Miami Heat, Atlanta Hawks, Toronto Raptors, Washington Wizards, out of that team, I definitely have the Washington Wizards going into the lottery. They're going to join the Bulls in the lottery section. And then which one of those 4 teams now, out of the Heat, the Hawks, the Raptors, and then the Pacers, who I see making it into a play-in tournament, who do I see going out of that, making it out of that play-in tournament and going into the actual playoffs? I'm going to say right now, the Miami Heat are playoff bound. And I also are going to say the Indiana Pacers. I think the Pacers can overtake the teams ahead of them. I think they can win 2 play-in games. And I think the Pacers, with it, like I said, if they're healthy, just with the depth of that roster, Ben Mathurin coming off the bench, being one of the best rookie scorers and bench scorers in the NBA this season, the Atlanta Hawks, they got some turmoil going on. They're 5-5 in their last 10. And I do think that overall, the Atlanta Hawks are probably the more talented roster. But with coaching changes, things like that, I'm going to say the Atlanta Hawks also end up missing out. They don't win in that play-in tournament. And we're going to have the Miami Heat and the Indiana Pacers be the ones to make that play-in tournament. Let me know down below. How do you feel? Do you agree? Do you disagree? It really does suck to be talking about my own team and have them being the first ones that are going to end up being in that play-in tournament. But, you know, it is what it is there. Let's look over the next. Let's go to the Western Conference. So right now, the 4 teams slated to be in the play-in tournament are the Dallas Mavericks, Los Angeles Clippers, New Orleans Pelicans, and Utah Jazz. With the teams that are still a possibility to make that play-in tournament, and keep in mind, no teams technically, I don't think, statistically eliminated from making the play-in tournament, but I'm going to, for the nature of this conversation, we're going to focus on the Los Angeles Lakers, the OKC Thunder, and the Portland Trail Blazers. So which one of these teams, out of those last 3 teams, do I see staying where they are and not making that play-in tournament? I don't have any hope for the Portland Trail Blazers. I don't have any hope for the Oklahoma City Thunder either, even though the Thunder have a player in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander that I do think should absolutely be in MVP or would be in MVP conversation if that team had more wins, and he should be. But again, I just look at the Thunder being a young team. They're 4-6 in their last 10, even though they've won 2 in a row. They're the only team out of the 3 teams right now outside of the play-in that have a positive point differential. So it could be way off balance. We could see the OKC Thunder go on a run and eventually make the play-in tournament, especially when we look at teams like the Clippers and stuff struggling, but we'll talk about them in a minute. But I do think that the OKC Thunder are going to be slated for a lottery. I do think that about the Portland Trail Blazers as well. The Los Angeles Lakers are a team that's difficult to gauge. They're 6-4 in their last 10. They've won 1 game, but the fact that they're going to be missing LeBron for the majority of the rest of the season, and then you're looking at also AD, what's going to be the situation with AD, D'Angelo Russell, seems like there's some serious concern with that injury and how it's going to affect his future availability. But I like the roster that they end up building. And I also look at the Utah Jazz that have lost 3 in a row. And I'm going to say eventually at some point that the Lakers do enough to stay relevant. And then when LeBron comes back, if he comes back the last couple weeks on the season, they're going to make a push. They're actually going to make the play-in tournament, which then pushes the Utah Jazz into the lottery area as well. So then that makes us look at the Mavericks, the Clippers, the Pelicans, and the Lakers as the teams that I have being in that play-in tournament. Which one of these teams are going to be playoff bound? And it's hard to bet against the Dallas Mavericks just because of that offense. They're 4-6 in their last 10. They've won 1 game since they traded for Kyrie Irving. Maybe it's 2. But I just look at that team and I think that team's going to be able to figure it out at least to get out the play-in tournament. I don't necessarily see them winning a playoff series, but I do think they have enough offensive firepower despite that defense to get into the playoffs. Now, looking at the Clippers, the Pelicans, and the Los Angeles Lakers as the teams remaining in that play-in, and which one of those teams are going to get into the playoffs, I'm going to say the New Orleans Pelicans. I say that Zion Williamson comes back healthy, and they go rocking and rolling. They're going to make it out that play-in tournament. So then we're looking at the Dallas Mavericks and the New Orleans Pelicans making it into that play-in, out of the play-in tournament, with the other teams, not making it out that play-in. That's kind of my thought. That's how I may see. Again, we may, as we get closer to the playoffs, we do a little bit more playoff predictions as well. The Golden State Warriors, they lost a tough game after Steph's return to the Los Angeles Lakers. So, we'll see what continues with that. Overall, it's a very fun season, very fun time for basketball fans. Let me know down below. Who do you think is going to make the play-in tournament? Who do you think has the best chance to make it out the play-in tournament? And then what teams that right now have a slight chance to make that tournament and get into some postseason play are ultimately going to see their hopes and dreams crushed and then miss out on even the play-in tournament? Let me know what you guys think on all that down below. Make sure you're following the show at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform. You can also send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything basketball related or soon to be. And that's it. I'll see you guys next time I feel like making a video. Probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.